How many stories do you want to hear? Every day you're taking chances. Calculated. I mean, you're just not going at it stupid. You're taking calculated chances every day. And that's what keeps most of the guys out there. Is you respect what could happen to you and you try to be as safe as you can. But every day it's an adrenaline rush every day. The leg deal, what happened there? Oh yeah, I fell a tree and it landed in another tree and it was probably 8 feet off the ground. And they call it bruised bark because when it slid down through there, it made the bark come loose. Well, I was stepping in between those trees, cutting the limbs off 8-10 feet off the ground, and that bark slipped and my legs went out from under me and I had the saw revved up going fast because I was cutting limbs. So I took the saw and I threw it because I didn't want to get cut. And when I fell down, I landed on a limb and it went through my leg and came out this side. And I spun around, I was hanging upside down. And I could feel my heart and your whole body going boom. So I thought I must have cut an artery or something. So I pulled myself up off the tree, dropped down to the ground, and I'd nicked an artery and the blood was shooting from me to you. So I just stuck my fingers in the holes, twisted them around till it quit. And then I walked out and it didn't feel quite right. I couldn't walk with my fingers in my leg. So I took off my neckerchief and I tied it and made a tourniquet and walked out to my truck and got into it and drove down to the doctor's office and got sewed up. I kept letting the tourniquet off while I was in the doctor's office to let the blood flow so the tissue wouldn't die. And the nurse asked me, she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." So I just kept letting the tourniquet off. And finally she was hearing a drip, drip noise and she looked over her desk and here's a pool of blood that I'd been letting the tourniquet off. And she goes, "Oh my gosh, I thought you were okay." And I said, "I am okay." So they took me in and went ahead and sewed me up and they were in a hurry. And so the doctor forgot to give me the shots to deaden it. So they sewed it all up while I didn't have any. It wasn't deadened. He was cutting the pieces of meat out and throwing it and sewing it back up. And I said, "Man," he said, "how come you're squirming around?" I said, "Because that hurts." And he went, "Oh, I forgot to give you the shots for that." He said, "It's okay, we're almost done." So he went ahead and finished showing it up. That was old Dr. Carter. And the deal with the nose, that was I was cutting some trees for a guy, and they were really limby, and I told him to stay away and watch from a distance, like I did you guys over there. I said, "Stay away and watch from a distance," and it was real brushy, so I took my chainsaw and I cut a path that I was going to run out. So I cut the tree, I faced it, did the back cut, and the tree started to fall, and I turned to run, and I ran into this guy. I couldn't run, he was standing right here. So I pushed him, and I turned around and looked like that, and a limb came down, caught my nose, and didn't take it clear off, but it was hanging there. And so, and then the guy got up, and he says, "Gosh, I think that was my fault." And I says, "Yeah, I told you to stay over there." And he says, "Well, let's go down to the doctor's." And I said, "No, let's finish the job." It's because we only had 3 more trees. So I went ahead and cut the 3 trees, and then we went down to the doctor's office, and they sewed my nose back on. And he didn't use any anesthetic then either. He says, "Because there's so many nerve endings in your nose that you could never deaden them all." He says, "So we'll just sew it on." So that's what he did. I was walking like you are, cutting the limb in the top of a tree. And I went down to cut the top off, standing like you are. I went to cut the top of the tree off. And I knew I was done, so I turned to walk away, which I shouldn't have done. And it hit another limb, and it came back, and it went across here. And it cut that muscle across through here. And first thing I did was pull your pants up, because they were cut. And it was winter, so I looked down, and my long johns were cut. And by the time I got to my long johns, it was bleeding pretty good. So I stopped, and what did I do then? Oh, I tore my t-shirt apart, because I didn't have anything else with me. So I tore my t-shirt apart and stuffed it in the hole, and then tied it tight. And then I walked up to my cutting partner. I said, "I cut my leg. I got to go down to the doctor." And he said, "Do you want me to drive?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, let me see." So I pulled my pants up and showed him. That was 300 stitches. You know how you're working with a bunch of people and you've got different people have, it's like a big daycare center. You got to appease different people. You know, you just have to. And out there, you're by yourself. You don't. You just work. We belong in the woods. Yeah.
Yeah, back to your stories. Tell me about, when you hear the story about your leg, when you went to you stuck your fingers in your leg.
Yeah.
And the story about your nose getting cut.